So eventually the court put a parenting coordinator in place, which is a lawyer whose job it is to settle disputes between the divorced parents. And this particular parenting coordinator, though I did not agree that this was the one that we should use, I was forced into it. She was a radical trans activist, and within a couple of months had completely separated me from my child.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us again on my channel. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate all the amazing comments and really amazing way you are reaching out to me to get me these kind of people on my channel. So today I have a very special guest, AJ, and AJ has a story that's quite fascinating and pretty much what we've all been discussing, but it's also very sad. And so before I move on, please like, subscribe, do all the great things you're doing to help me raise these voices out there. So, hey, AJ, nice to see you, my friend. And so why don't you just go ahead and tell us who you are, and then we'll move on with the story.
So my name is AJ. I currently live in New York State, but I'm from New Jersey, and I have a family court custody case in New Jersey. I divorced from my ex-husband in 2017, and within days of the divorce being finalized and the custody agreement happening, he started working on trying to separate me from my child, calling child services, calling the police constantly. Fast forward through years of real chaos in our lives to November of 2020, when our child was 10 years old. 11 at the time, 11. Our child on November 5th was a regular day. It was a get up and switch to dad's house day. My ex-husband came, picked the kid up around 5:30 that evening. I called to check on her to see, what you eat for dinner, how was your day at school? I was told, Mom, I just want you to know I'm a boy named Tristan. And I was shocked because this was a kid that was always a very girly girl. And honestly, the running joke in the family was that I was never going to be as girly as this kid. And I was never going to be able to teach the kid how to do makeup the way that she liked and all the things. So I was pretty shocked. So what I said was, why didn't you tell me this morning when we were together? And she said, well, I was really busy. I was rushing around. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to think about this for a while. And we'll talk about this tomorrow. It was 2 weeks before my child would even come to my house for dinner because her father had convinced her that I was dangerous, that what I had said was transphobic, that I was homophobic, that she was in danger with me, that I would commit a hate crime against her. Meanwhile, had gone out and bought her breast binders and a whole new wardrobe, took her to a fancy salon to get a boy haircut, to do all these things. Him and his wife really jumped on this bandwagon because it was a thing that they could do to win the kids' affection. And it was just another example of post-separation abuse. So I did eventually convince my child to come back to the house. Things sort of progressed, not really normally, but, I had tried to have some conversations with my kid about why loving our bodies is important and interfering with growing bodies is dangerous. And if you want to wear shorts in the pool, you want to wear bow ties and cut your hair, like, I'll get you the cutest gear that's out there. I've always done that for you and I always will. Whatever your style is, like, that's what we're going to do. But when it comes to medical intervention, I think that's really dangerous. And it's not something that, I agree with. Eventually, the kid was getting a lot of positive attention at dad's house. From what I understand, I'm blocked from all the social media, but they get a lot of likes and cliques for being these like very edgy, cool parents of a trans kid. So the kid was getting a lot of positive attention, which is, you know, straight up commodification of a child, and it's disgusting. But so eventually the court put a parenting coordinator in place, which is a lawyer whose job it is to settle disputes between the divorced parents. And this particular parenting coordinator, though I did not agree that this was the one that we should use, I was forced into it. She was a radical trans activist, and within a couple of months had completely separated me from my child. My child had some emotional outbursts. There were some acts of violence. The kid had snuck a knife into school and told the kids that she was going to slit her wrists. That there were some fires. Started a fire in a room at my house. Started a fire in a room at Dad's house. And then on one particular night in April of 2021, she wanted to stay up past her bedtime, and I was like, you know what, dude, it's not gonna happen. It's school night. You're gonna go to bed. Like, got Dad's house in the morning, you know, tomorrow. Like, you gotta go. She didn't like that. She threw a temper tantrum. She cold cocked me in the face. I put my arms around her and held her arms, sort of held her so that she couldn't hit me. She totally freaked out. I let her go. I went into my bedroom. It was a first floor bedroom in that house. I went into my bedroom and closed the door to take some deep breaths and just try to figure out what my next move was. I heard the stove clicking, and I opened the door, and she was at the stove burning whole notebook pages and throwing them around the kitchen. We had already been registered with a state organization for at-risk children called Perform Care, and I had been instructed by the court that if there was any acts of violence or anything like that, that I had to call it in. So I called it in, and I called, you know, the screener was like, I got to send the police out, and I begged her. I was like, I got this under control. Please don't send the police. We don't need the police. She was like, it's protocol. I got to send the police. And the police show up, and they knew us because we lived in a very small town, and my ex-husband had called them to my house many times before. And I was like, please don't make us go to the hospital. The kids calmed down. I got this under control. And he was like, I got to send you. He was like, you know, the kid punched you. She set a fire. You got to go to the hospital. It's protocol. I got to go. So she gets in an ambulance. I follow in my car. I call my ex-husband. We sit there at the hospital all night. And finally at 4 a.m, the mental health screener says, listen, I want to admit this kid, but I got to tell you that there's another kid that's been waiting for a bed in the behavioral health unit for 5 days, and your kid's in line behind that one. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to have the kid in the ER for days and days and days. I was like, this is ridiculous. I don't agree to that. So I was said to my ex-husband, listen, your parenting time starts in a few hours. Obviously, the kid's not going to school. You take him home. Everybody goes to sleep. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do next. And that was April 17th of 2021, and I never got my kid back. I haven't had my kid in, yeah, it's a very, very long time. At first, the parenting coordinator said that there was going to be a separation for my safety because I was in danger. And I have documented emails after emails saying, I don't need that. I don't want that. Just give me my kid back. Please just give me my kid back. I just want to go to therapy with my kid. Just give me my kid back. And then once, you know, and we had enough time to really indoctrinate the kid into the idea that I was dangerous to them. Now she'll tell anyone that asks that I'm transphobic, that I'm homophobic, that I'll hurt her, that I neglected her, that I'm abusive, that I'm this terrible person, and
I'm so
I just can't.
I'm so sorry, AJ. Like, wow. You know, I'm a parent. I'm a parent too, and I have a child around your age, her age, and it's
She's 13 now, so
13. Yeah, mine's 10. But you know, when this started, I'm going to say she, even though she identifies as he, or
well, now I learned secondhand that my child has downgraded from he to they, which was a point of contention at work, because at the beginning I was like, how about instead of the he pronoun until we all get used to it, why don't we just all say they? Because I'm a they and dad's a they, everybody's a they, that's what they means. They could be anybody. And that was seen as an example of transphobia. And that was not received well at all by anyone. But now I understand that there's been a downgrade. And I recently fought for a week with this kid. My ex-husband pulled the kid out of the school that they had been in since kindergarten, put him in new school. I fought with the new school for a week to get access to the 8th grade portrait, school picture day, whatever, because nobody would. My parents wanted to see what their grandkid looked like. And I finally got a copy of the picture, and kid doesn't look like a boy to me. Looks like a really cute, sweet, very sweet little 8th grade girl with glasses. And I feel like they're just using this title to get leverage, and that this particular parenting coordinator, this trans activist, leveraged the position of this custody battle to prove a point. And I don't think it's very fair.
No. First off, I want to say, AJ, I feel you, and I'm giving you a ton of love right now. And it's just a heartbreaking story. But I want to also just say this to the people who are watching, that she's not the only one. There are so many parents like you. And I just want to thank you for stepping up and having this important conversation with me, first off, because not very many parents are. But I think what you're going to do is create a space for other parents to feel not alone, if that makes sense. Right? Secondly, I want to ask you how is it possible that the mediator, because that's like a divorce mediator, is it not? How are they in the trans space? That especially when you have a trans kid, that's not fair. That doesn't make sense.
She is married to a they person, female to they person. The two of them have a law firm in New Jersey. They have a teenage son and a set of twins that are elementary school age. Both twins were born boys, but one of them identifies as a girl. I've gathered from looking at her Facebook page and things like that they're in some kind of like 4-way marriage with another woman and another woman to they person. And I feel like, if anything, at the very least, to put this person in place with a conflict of interest.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That might be actually on your side. That is 100% a conflict of interest right there. So
yeah,
I mean, in any space.
Yeah, the judge didn't care about that. The judge, we brought that up. I mean, I lost my house in legal fees. I've spent over $160,000 in legal fees since before the trans assertion, because he kept dragging me into court, but I had to sell my house to pay off the lawyers. I don't have a lawyer anymore because I don't have any more money.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, I work with a couple organizations, and after we're done with this interview, we'll do a little email. Maybe I can help you figure that out next. So, there's people who are starting to help parents like you.
If anything would help. A pro bono representation would really help right now.
That's right. So we'll discuss that off air. But so moving forward, this is just such a depressing, sad, horrifying space you're in, and I just feel for you. I just find it so disgusting that divorces happen. I've been in a divorce. I've been actually 2 divorces. But that being said, it doesn't have to be that way. And it doesn't have to be the way people make this nasty, and they use the child. I'm gonna say, it feels like your ex is using the child in this way that's so sickening. And I get affirming, but this child is a child, 13, 11, 10, like all of these ages. They don't know who they are, and they're learning that from school. You know that as well as I do. They're
Well, I
learning.
mean, the kid was alone with YouTube for many months during COVID. This happened. This assertion happened November 5th, 2020. I can give you the exact dates of all these things because I've written so many legal, response documents and things like that where I've had to say I can tell you cold the dates of everything. The kid had been alone with YouTube for months, and as a single parent, I had 2 jobs and I was taking care of a house and the property by myself, and like paying bills with one hand and like taking care of the dog with the other hand and all these things. I gave my kid a lot of one-on-one time during that time. We had a lot of really, especially the 2 months of like absolute quarantine. There was a 2-month period the kid didn't see another human being in person other than me for 2 months. And it was such a wonderful time. Like we baked cookies together and watched a million movies and did crafts and giggled and snuggled in my bed and all these wonderful things. Like we just were so close, but I couldn't give her 100% of the time because I still had to figure out a way to make money and take care of things. So she spent a lot of time on the computer, and it doesn't surprise me that in this time of turmoil that the kid would latch on to something that wasn't necessarily organically true for her at the time. And now my fear is that she's trying to backpedal out of it, but she doesn't know how. And she's in this new school that they only know her as this boy person. And she's afraid to say, I'm actually not this boy person, and lose whatever social standing. And like, what if she tries to hurt herself because she doesn't know how to deal with all that? Like, it keeps me up every night. I just miss her so much.
I know. I feel you. It's horrible. So wait a minute. So do you think on some level, pardon me, that your child could be actually trying to, on some level, maybe backtracking from, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think a lot of these young people are in that same position because they also see what happens to people who detransition and start to speak about it, and how they get so incredibly bullied from the transgender community. So do you think a lot of her friends, so wait, let me backtrack for 1 minute. So you have zero connection with this, with your
zero contact kid, but got pulled out of the school she was in. All of her old friends. I mean, like, there was a point where I was a substitute teacher at her school. I worked in the medical office at her summer camp, and so we were not in the same place at the same time, but on the same camp. All of my friends were the parents of her friends. We socialized together. We went to barbecues together. We went on vacations together. All of those people have been separated from my kid. I don't know any of the people in my kid's life. My ex-husband's been married to his wife for a few years now. I've only had maybe 5 conversations with this woman face to face ever in 5 years. Like, I don't know her, but I know about her.
Right. Do you think she also is part? Well, I think she has to be.
She is 100% influencing this. From what I get from people that are still sort of connected to both of us, they get a lot of attention.
Also, I heard you say something about social media. So are they putting your child on social media? Are they? Again,
I'm blocked from all of that, but from what I hear from other people, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I bet they are, because that's the other thing I see a lot of these parents putting their children. I have a trans kid. I don't care if you have a trans kid. What if your trans kid decides they want to be stealth and nobody knows they're trans, and you're plastering that kid all over the internet? I'm a believer like you. I think a lot of people use this as, social brownie points or whatever you want to call it, right?
And I've talked to a lot of trans people, and I've told my story, and I've never gotten any kind of pushback from any of them once they understand like where I'm coming from it, like where I'm like, interfering with growing bodies is a bad idea, and also, everyone that I've ever talked to has just wanted to pass, like they just want to be left alone and pass. And like the idea that like being trans is its own thing that makes you special and cool is like feels really weird to them.
That's right. That's why we do this. That's why we talk about it, because It's a disorder. It's not a self ID. It's not an identity. Your child is going through an identity space right now, and they are seeking something, which is a lot of kids do. We know that. Me and you probably did it as well, right? Right. Of course. Of course. All I see from you is love. That's what I see from you. I don't see hate. I don't see that you don't want to acknowledge whatever's going on with your child. This is complete bullshit. You've been railroaded on some level, and to be this bad person, and that you're trans, they fling that transphobic word around because it's an easy means and a way to shut down the conversation. And, I'm really feeling like you have some legal pull here if we get you into the right space with the right people. I don't believe this is legal. I can't imagine this is legal. You haven't abused your child. You just said verbally things that any parent would say. Wait a minute here. I'm a trans, and I would say it. If my child said they were trans, I would push back. I don't want my child to be trans. It's not this thing that everybody thinks is so awesome. It isn't. It's a lifelong medical condition that you have to deal with forever. So we're lying to these kids that it's like this thing. So now here you are with your child so is it a legal space you're in that you are no longer allowed to see your child?
On paper, I still have 50% custody, but I was told by a judge last year that I needed to go to a 3-month treatment program to deal with mental health issues that were undiagnosed, that no one gave me a diagnosis of a mental health issue. They just said that I have mental health problems. I need to go to a 3-month program. So what I did was I checked myself into a partial inpatient program at the county hospital behavioral health center. They didn't want to take me. They said, listen, the story that you're telling, like your reaction to this, because do I cry a lot? Yeah.
So do I. So do I.
Panic attacks and anxiety? Yeah, all those things are true. I have insomnia? Yes, that's all true. They were like, you're supposed to feel that way. You've experienced an extreme trauma. So they didn't want to take me, but I begged and begged and begged. They finally let me into the program. After 1 month, they were like, we have to discharge you. Like, we can't keep you here. You can't, you're too well to be here. And they released me with a positive discharge letter and an hour-by-hour account of every hour that I spent there. Every single hour that I was there, a clinician made notes on me and every patient. That's part of their protocol. Here's the mood that she was in. Here's a significant quote that she said during this group. Here's her level of participation. And all of it is like exactly what you would want to see from a well person. They were like, we can't, like, based on our notes, like based on your presentation, all these things, like we can't keep you here. That the judge decided that wasn't good enough, that I had to complete a 3-month program, that I hadn't completed a 3-month program, that I would have to go back, find another program, start back at the beginning, can't go to work, can't make money, can't do it, go back to the beginning until I'd completed 3 months, which to me sounds an awful lot like a sentence and not treatment. Like if I had broken my ankle and they were like, we think you're going to be in a cast for 10 weeks. And then in 8 weeks, they're like, oh, cast can come off. Everybody would be like, yay, you're better. But this is a sentence for a crime I didn't commit. It's just that my ex-husband said over again that there's something wrong with me. And it was easier for the judge to do this than to follow up. Like they preferred to support a documented domestic violence perpetrator in order to maintain this facade that there's something wrong.
It's a charade. And so I'm really concerned about this judge. They're biased. The judge is biased. I'm not even have a trans child. It sounds something is weird. Something is weird. The fact that they're ordering you to go to mental health. What about your husband? Shouldn't he be going? Ex-husband. He should be going to mental. Why aren't you all being subjected to that?
I don't know.
This is
but I mean,
crazy.
My lawyer submitted the documents from the hospital. She tried to call the clinician that oversaw, the psychiatrist that oversaw the program, the clinicians. She tried to call them all as witnesses. She wasn't allowed to. The judge wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't allow our family doctor to come and talk about his interactions with the child and with me. Like the judge would not allow my lawyer to call witnesses.
Wow.
And
There's bias 100%. Is it possible to ask for a different judge? I mean,
there's only 2 court judges in that county.
wow.
I talked to my lawyer about an appeal, and she was like, an appeal would cost you $40,000, and if you won, you would get put in front of the same judge.
Yep. Yep.
So
it's insane. It's literally you're caught in a cycle. You're actually caught. I hope everybody out there is hearing this. Everybody out there hears this. This is disgusting behavior. This is all because they have a trans child that one parent is saying no and the other parent is saying yes, and the other parent gets full custody even though they don't have full custody. They're being completely surrounded by this trans agenda on some level. And I
wasn't saying, I never said no. What I said
I
was
know that you didn't.
With bodies is a bad idea. But stuff, clothes, the hair, who you want to make out with at the 8th grade dance, all those things, God bless.
Yep.
You know, you take care of yourself, your stuff is clean and weather appropriate. That's all I ever cared about. Those were always the rules for my kid with clothes. Clean and weather appropriate. And then God bless, wear what you want.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's how I feel too. I don't care if you want to dress up. It's the medical space. So wait, is your child being medicalized now, or you don't?
I have no way of knowing.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if my kid's broken her leg. I don't know if she's had COVID. I don't know anything. I have 0 contact, and they give me 0 information.
But you have 50%. I'm sorry.
I lost my house saying those words to lawyers and judges. I lost my house because for $350 an hour, my lawyer would listen to me say over and over again, I have 50% custody. Why can't you get me my kid back?
Yeah.
And she'd be like, I don't know. Maybe you should have her. I can't figure out why the judge won't do it. Like,
but the judge can't say anything because there's an actual thing that says you get fit. Why don't you just get the cops and go over there and show your paper that shows you have 50%? You know, I know I'm just putting stuff in your ear. I'm sure you've done everything.
My child has gotten into some very bad situations in the past. The only things that I know are the bad things that have happened. The kid filled a water bottle with gin and took it on a school bus on a field trip and got drunk over state lines in Pennsylvania, puked, had to go to the hospital and get a CAT scan because she was found unconscious. They found a joint on her. So she wasn't, not only was she a 13-year-old kid with drugs on her in a state in Pennsylvania doesn't have recreational marijuana, not that it would matter because she was a minor, but it's actually a federal crime to bring drugs over the border. Nobody cared. I brought it to child services. I brought it to the police. I went to the school myself. I brought it in front of the judge. Nobody cared. I got a call from the parent of one of my kids' friends. This was about 8 months ago, that said, I've told your ex-husband on many occasions that these kids have been involved in online sex chats with adults. I just committed my son to a psych unit. My kid is safe now, but you better get your house in order. I recorded this conversation. I have a recording of this conversation. I brought that to child services. I brought that to the local police. I brought that to the judge. No one did anything. I brought it to the school. The kid was going on an overnight trip to Washington, D.C., and I contacted the school principal, and I was like, listen, my kid's involved in this stuff. You're going to have her locked in a room with 3 other little 7th grade boys. I don't know what they're going to get into. I don't like the idea of my kid being locked in a room overnight with 3 little boys, especially if this is what this kind of thing that my kid is into. Nothing. No response from the school at all. They ignored me. I have all of this email. It's insane.
I mean, I mean, if I didn't know you and I hadn't had a conversation with you, I'd be like, what? But this is real, people. I've already spoken with AJ many times before this. You're a legit. This is a legit real thing that's happening. And I guarantee you there are so many more other stories like this where their kids are being taken away from the parent, or the parent that doesn't agree with transitioning and gets taken away completely. That is not positive for the child, number one. So everybody out there, listen to this story, because she is far from the only one. Far from it. This is happening at such a huge rate that we need to start to really get together. And so when we're finished with this here, I want somehow that we can all start to figure out how to get together with AJ and all of us and figure out how we can start to push back against this nonsense. It's 100% bias. It is not helping the child in any way. It's making the child worse. When you take a child away from a parent, even though the bad parent, whatever that's supposed to mean, you're actually doing a disservice and more damage than if you were in, and you're getting called transphobic, which is fucking insane. I'm speechless, AJ, and I'm sorry I'm speechless, but I'm very disgusted in our system in this country. What are we doing to families? What are we doing to children? You know, I don't give a shit if your kid says they're trans. That's not true. They have to go through a system to figure that out. Just because you say you are does not mean you're trans. And now you see what we're doing? We're killing these kids by doing this. We're letting the kids say this without any pushback. So your child is getting no pushback. They're just getting praise, like you said earlier, from the other side. And so they feel happy about, and why do you think they're acting out when they come to your house? Because you're not giving them the same praise.
I'm currently in therapy at the local LGBTQ community center. They have, in the state of New York, I've been in New York for about 6 months now. The state of New York offers up to 12 free sessions for people who are involved with the LGBT community that need therapy. And one of the things that I talked to my therapist about in my last session was, I was like, listen, if my kid was a soccer star and then one day was like, I fucking hate sports, any parent that was doing their job would be like, hey, we should talk about this.
Yeah.
There would be some pushback, you know? So, and that's a pretty small comparison to, I'm actually not a girl and I need to get a double mastectomy immediately. And I need to get, I need to put on hormones, testosterone and puberty blockers and all the things. Like it baffles my mind that the idea that I wanted to talk about it, to find out the genesis of it, to discover, you know, like my kid has asthma, so she takes a daily inhaled steroid, and she has a thyroid issue, so she takes thyroid medication. So she's been overweight for several years because of these things. And there were so many times that this child put her head in my lap and cried and said to me, Mommy, why can't my body look like yours? Never, Mommy, why can't I look like a boy? Never that. It was always, Mommy, why can't my body look like yours? And I'd have to be like, well, because these medications and they make you bloated, and that, you know, it's a thing. And we're gonna, if you want, we can eat more salads and we can go on more walks together and all these things, you know, you know, I would never put my kid on a diet, but I didn't keep snack food in the house. Like I didn't keep cookies and Doritos and soda or anything like that. There was always fresh fruit in the fridge and like things like that. Like I always tried to help her with the things that made her feel bad about herself. But I also think that the weight issue played a big part in it too. Like it was, you know, an image thing. She hated her body for a lot of reasons, and preteen kids hate their bodies for a lot of reasons.
Especially girls. Come on. Why do you think there's such an upswing in young girls? It's all girls. This is nothing. There's very few boys doing this. It's really, really a very much of a young girl thing. And we know, we can see it. We can see it. It's the period, the boobs, you know, everything that people go through.
Oh, that's another thing. Mm-hmm. I was with my kid the day she got her first period. And it was after the trans assertion, after the boy showed up, the boy person showed up. And I would have thought that a trans child getting a period would be an extremely traumatic experience, that the kid would freak the fuck out. But I'll tell you what happened. Kid went into the bathroom. A few minutes later, sticks her head out, says, Mom, can you get me some new pajama pants? And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, I need some clean pajama pants. I was like, did you get your period? And she was like, yeah, but I got this. was like, all right, I'll get you some panties too. Went, got the pants, got the pajama pants, put it through the door. 5 minutes later, the kid comes out. She's like, you get blood stains out with dish soap, right? And I was like, yeah, dish soap. Very calmly went to the sink, washed out her underpants, hung them up, and went about her fucking business. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should be like, do we have a period party for this boy who doesn't seem to want to talk about it? Or do I ignore it? Or like, I just didn't know what to do. So I didn't have that like special mom and daughter moment of that, like, you know, you're a woman. I didn't do that with her because I was so afraid to do the wrong thing. But what definitely didn't happen is this kid definitely did not freak out and say, there's something wrong with me, like, you know, like all the things you'd expect to hear from a trans kid in that situation.
That's called dysphoria. I can tell you all about dysphoria and all of that. The boobs give you dysphoria. It doesn't sound like she has dysphoria. It sounds to me like she's looking for an identification because first off, she has the thyroid problem, which I have friends who have thyroid. That's a horrible space to be in, especially for a young person. You do put on weight. It fucks up your hormonal stuff. You know, it's not a great place. So she has body. It sounds to me like she has body dysphoria or dysmorphia or whatever you want to call it. And she's that's why this new trans thing is just overlapping on all the food problems kids have, anorexia, bulimia, all the body stuff kids have. Like it's just overlap, ADHD, all of this stuff it's playing into. And then your ex is literally giving her that
prizes. I mean, this guy, he would call child services to the house. And if you call child services to somebody's house, they go, no matter what. They come, they would show up at my house. One time they showed up because she had burned her finger on a hot glue gun making a craft. And a day later, child services shows up. They open up my fridge. They count how many vegetables I had. They gave me a hard time about having Red Bull in the fridge. They were like, why do you have this Red Bull? And I was like, well, when my kid goes to her father's house, sometimes I bartend on the weekends to make extra money and need help staying awake.
Yeah.
They look for weapons, they go through all your stuff. And 2 days after that nightmare, the kid goes to her father's house and there's a puppy. You know, like that's just how he's played this game for years. And he worked on this kid for years and he got her.
He knows exactly what he's doing. It's clear. And again, I'm going to say it. You're not the only one I'm having this conversation with. A lot of people are saying the exact same thing. What can we do to help you?
I could really use some legal representation, and I don't have any more money.
Okay. So everyone,
I don't need money from people, but anybody that knows a lawyer that wants to get involved in a very complicated and traumatic, awful case like this, I could use that.
I'm going to reach out to some of my friends and colleagues, and we're going to see what we can do to help you out. Number one, I want everyone out there to hear what AJ, if anyone has any services or any links to things that we could help AJ with, because AJ will break the seal, if that makes sense. You're going to break the seal, and we need to do that in order to start to save these children. And anybody out there who calls me transphobic for saying this can fuck off, because this is not trans. This is child abuse. This is kidnapping. This is all kinds of things that I refuse to have connected to my disorder, and a disorder that is not fun or great. And we're leading children down a dangerous path. And kids are not stupid. Let's just say that. Kids are not stupid. Kids know how to play that game. And if a kid is getting more praises from the parent who's literally telling them that, you know, whatever you need, and the parent that's going, wait a minute, Aaron, questioning, you need to see that whole thing. Of course, the kid's going to go to the parent that's giving them the puppy and the Legos and not to the parent that's saying, wait a minute, I don't believe you. So this is the part where I'm really pissed off about this. And this is not transphobia. This is a parent caring about their child. And this is a parent who should never, every child needs both parents if that's a possibility. And we are doing a disservice not only to children, but to family values in this country. And it's disgusting. And I won't be a part of it. So AJ, I really care about you. And I care about your story. And I think your story can help so many other parents. So with that, I'm going to close this out. But if there's anything else you need to say out there besides that, please say it.
I mean, if somebody is watching this and they figured out who I am and who my kid is, can you just please tell her that I love her and I miss her so much? That's all.
Heartbreaking, heartbreaking. Seriously, it's just not okay. I don't know how we got to this space in our community. This isn't loving, and this isn't caring about kids. This is something else. And you know, like if anybody out there's a parent, they could feel you. And you know, we got to get back to normality here, and we're tearing families apart over whatever this trans agenda is. And you know, I can't stand it. It hurts my feelings. It hurts my feelings to see you hurt. I can tell my feeling is you're a good person. It is my feeling, and you don't deserve this, AJ, at all. So I appreciate you contacting me, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to interview you and giving me the opportunity to put your voice out there, because I'm not kidding. I really believe that other parents are going to benefit from this big time, because I'm having a hard time finding parents like you who are willing to talk about it, because it's so scary, you know?
Well, because if you had gotten to me 6 months ago, I never would have done it, because there was still this hope that, like, any minute now I was going to get my kid back.
Yeah.
And minute now has turned, it's been 18, 19 months. It couldn't even, whatever April 17th, 2021 ends up being. Like, I've lived in this any minute now, and for a very long time. And now I'm like, well, I'm probably never going to see this kid again.
No, don't say that. No, I don't believe that. I actually don't believe that. In my heart, I believe you will. And with the help of our community that cares about you, and with the help of people out there who will see this, I'm almost sure of it. So don't lose hope, my friend. Please don't. But I know that we all care about you. We care about this child, and you know, we're doing this because we care about the future of trans, and we also care about the future of these kids. And that's all I want you to know. And everybody out there, thank you. I hope you're all crying with us, but thank you everybody for watching and participating and creating a better, more loving community and a space where these things stop happening. So remember to, when you like and subscribe and comment, it really helps to get this thing out there. And with that, AJ, thank you so much, my friend.